Hello everybody. Happy Wednesday, the November 8th. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to make my formal introduction. My name is Sabrina. I am a shamanic witch. I am an empath, a medium, psychic, and energy channeler. All my clairs are opened. I'm an open channel. And this makes me something that I just learned, a new term called super empath. I have been sharing pearls of wisdom, and I've been basically telling stories, but I've gone back and deleted those videos because I want to kind of, rather than continuing to talk about what's happened over here, as I've had another revelation, I want to talk about the steps and the red flags, okay? A lot of the things that I've learned that really relate to alcoholism and being a child of an alcoholic, okay? I am not only a child of an alcoholic, as I've mentioned before, but also I've learned now the child of an alcoholic narcissist. And what I've had to ask myself is, what is a narcissist really? And how does it help me to add the second word to this diagnosis? And it actually does help, because even though I know that my mother had a childhood issue, a trauma, there was a behavior that they call narcissism, which has to do with this childhood attachment and being stuck in childhood, or having your childhood robbed because you were suddenly treated like you had to act like some kind of an adult and do something adult. It was forced on you. And in the mind of the child, where did my childhood go, right? I just lost my childhood. So children tend to make these grand assumptions. I worked half a day today. I'm grateful that I've worked for 15 years with children because I've learned techniques in dealing with the behaviors. I think it's helped me when I've had to come across the odd behavior of my husband, really. That's another thing that I'm dealing with, as well as anybody else that I encounter. I know now that the boss I had was also a manipulator and possibly, for lack of another word, a narcissist, okay, with her own addiction issues and excuses and inability to really support those that are in the correct position. She was preying on people that were weaker than her and enabling them, really, and that's the reason why I walked out. Hey, yeah, me, right? Resilience. I've had enough of that. And this is what we need to learn as an empath if we haven't learned it already. The super empath has been dealing with it for so many years that they become hyper aware of this type of behavior. And if they're clever enough to set their life up where they don't have to put up with that type of a thing and they can go do something else, see, then they're protecting themselves and they're going to do something else. So the silver lining with me starting to work with children was beginning to see the behavior with the person, the man I'd married, okay? Very similar to my narcissistic mother with her childhood issues, but different. This was a man, but nevertheless he was smothering. My mother was smothering, and now my husband was smothering. God damn it. But I had to somehow try to come to terms with it and deal with it. I eventually went into a black hole. and I returned to meditation and brought myself out. The only reason why he's accepted it is that he had plans to go back to his country anyway, which he has recently done. I decided to be alone, finish raising my daughter, and I bought a house. Well, then I had to sell it, so then things were not looking so great. They were okay for a little while. I thought my money would grow, and then the pandemic hit. So, it's just one thing after another, but I've been able to endure because I came out of that black hole, and I came out of it much, much stronger. I finally got in touch with my parent, excuse me, my parent ego state. And I became a much stronger, better parent. Able to deal with things. Able to deal with 2 strong-willed children. Now I have a classroom full of them. As I've said before, you either get strong or you get dead. So, during the time that I was single and I'd left, and got divorced, I would tell myself there has to be something that I can experience in the future before I die. God, please, a healthy relationship with a man before I die. So for this to be coming up again after all of my inner work is a shock. Having to encounter another person with obsessive behavior is a shock. Trying to cut myself off from that and it not working is a shock. I didn't know what was going on. Now, while I'm in the process of purging and cleansing and putting up a psychic shield, I did make an appointment for a psychotherapist. As I said, I believe in these 2 things go together. Anytime you have things come up through meditation, through working on yourself, doing shadow work, which is really what I've been doing with the meditation and the mindful meditation for so many years, was becoming my own hero. These people were the nemesis in my life, and I was able to become my own hero because I had the tools. I had already been taught meditation. I'd already purchased tapes with guided meditations on them in my when I was 30 years old. So when I employed them later, it kicked in very quickly, like hopping back on a bicycle. So I've just only introduced myself really and explained that what's happening is triggering certain things. I'm learning things I didn't know, and I'm confused. Why am I attracting this again? Just so that I can learn that the childhood issue is called narcissism? That doesn't make sense. If the empath keeps attracting these things, right, it's either because they're a healer and they're able to clairvoyantly from a distance make an impression to some extent on the other person. We absorb their obsessions. We are triggered. And we trauma bond. And then, hopefully, on the right face of the moon, we have a dream and we make some type of a telepathic impression on them so they can have a realization. But then we have to go through the process of cleansing and shielding. And then you also have to go to a psychotherapist. Okay? Now, sometimes when someone is being brought to their knees, so to speak, with the issues, then they have to be given the tools. And you may be the one that has to encounter them and maybe speak to them and not just do dream work, but continue to feed the information that they need to strengthen their self-esteem. Like I've said recently, without the tools to strengthen your self-esteem, you do not connect with your adult ego. And even though I pretty much connected to my adult ego state, becoming a parent threw me for a loop. I had to figure out how to enter the selfless parent ego state. So, that's when my sister was telling me, you've got to go to Al-Anon or ACA, stop talking about the alcoholic. And that's what I did. I started learning how to stop thinking and talking about the alcoholic. They'll keep you in circles, rallying around them if you let them. And like I said in one of my videos, they don't take no for an answer. You'll be called selfish. You'll be called everything they can possibly think of to make you feel that you are non-empathetic, when in fact it's just the opposite. You're probably the most empathetic person that they know, and that's why they keep coming back. So, my videos, I talked about red flags. I also talked about setting up boundaries, putting up surveillance cameras so you can monitor what's going on. That is sort of, in a way, letting them see what it feels like to be watched. If that's what's happening to you, someone who doesn't have the courage to try to speak to you and see if you're even going to be a good fit for them mentally, or emotionally, or even a good friend, maybe someone to confide in, right? To give advice, maybe, to give information. But if they don't do that, then you have to go on, with your life, which is what I did, just living my life. But in the meantime, not understanding what was happening as far as somebody who was really wanting not my life and maybe wanting for some reason to connect to someone who's probably more accomplished. You see what I mean? With my mother, it was all about image. It was all about living vicariously through me. And she sort of pushed me to get out there and go in the world and try to have a career, and try to have all the things that she couldn't get. More money, more status, and present an image, right, that's, I don't know, above others, so to speak, more intelligent, more academically learned. And she would hang around people like that, but not enough. They don't really necessarily look to acquire it for themselves. My mom was a college dropout. So the tenacity is not really there for following through with an important goal. It's only there to cling on to those that have what they wish they could have, but they don't necessarily want to have to work for it. So, yeah, I just had a brief introduction with this lady yesterday, and it's at the local community health center, and I'm on a sliding fee scale because I have not yet increased my income to a point where I don't need, assistance or a sliding fee scale. Groceries are going up again. Okay, so I'm getting a slightly bigger government check thank goodness. But that won't start until January, and it's not very much. I'm afraid that things are going downhill economically, and they could get worse. I think people are starting to move in with one another in order to be able just to survive, really. Split the bills, you know, and try to get along and cohabitate peacefully. And I don't really want that to happen to me. Like I said, after my marriage, I thought, I'm just going to live alone. All I want is to be alone. Until I can find a healthy relationship that I prayed for to God many times. Please, God, before I die, let me know what it's like to have a healthy relationship. And then I have, you know, this obsessive behavior that has come up. And every situation is a little bit unique. And I didn't know what in the world was going on. So, you know, I'm having to deal with the fact that I've got to ask my psychotherapist, first of all, what do we need to look at possibly with my childhood? And that narcissism. What is the reason why I keep encountering these types of people? Now, I walked away from the boss who was that way. I walked away. But I've had to put up with a lot in other jobs and other bosses who would chew me out royally for no reason. No reason. Simply because I pointed something out that customers were asking me about. So you're going to be the scapegoat, guys. You're going to be the scapegoat. And they're going to blame you and yell, you know, and create flying monkeys to come and attack you. These are things you need to know as a psychic and an empath. And you may have to speak to a psychotherapist. You may have to learn all of these terms, okay? Red flags, flying monkeys. I just learned about flying monkeys and narcissism. Now, I don't know what the future is going to bring within the next couple of months, but like I said, I'm a little bit in shock. I didn't plan on ever having to encounter these types of behaviors again. Not to mention the female friend I had a few years ago that I know now for sure is an alcoholic narcissist. I knew she was like my mother. I couldn't figure out she's so much like my mother in these ways, but not exactly, right? She's different. She's her own person with her own other things, but there's this and this and this. And it was childish. So that's it in a nutshell. I feel like I'm coming down with a cold, and I'm just going to relax and finish out the rest of my day so that I can go to work tomorrow and the next day and make the payment on my car repair. But yeah, I think I'm going to undecorate from Samhain and then start decorating for Christmas because it never lasts. It never lasts long enough for me. I leave it up till February. So maybe if I start now in November, I can leave it up just till the end of January and then redecorate for spring. But like I said, I want to have 2 trees this year. I want to have 2 trees in the living room, and I'm thinking of having 1 tree right here in the front entryway. When you come in the door, just have a big old honking tree. Why not? So I got to get going on that, which means I got to go to work. And then my next visit is not for another month because the clinic is backed up with appointments with the one and only psychologist that they have. Blessed be. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And I'll talk to you more about what I did to actually heal my inner child by focusing on subliminal tapes, really, okay? And I will show you examples of the work I did in hypnotherapy and the grades I got, and the scripts that I have in my book. I just printed out my book in hard copy, and we will go over the different scripts and what they specifically can help with. All right, blessed be. Talk to you later.